Money doesn't just come from one place. It drips, trickles, flows, and floods into our lives in different ways. Welcome to Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood, a podcast that explores the power of multiple income streams. We've got merch. That's right. Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood t-shirts are officially here, and they're as comfy as they are conversation starting. Grab yours at the link in our show notes. Hey, Tony, what's going on with you?
Not too much. I'm going to go watch some junior high volleyball tonight. My daughter's got a game and Lindsay will be coaching a different team. I don't know if I'm going to stick around and watch that or not, but I'll watch
So
Harper.
wait, does Lindsay coach Harper, coach your daughter or no?
So they're in the same program. Normally, Lindsay coaches high school and she coaches the 7th grade team. She's been doing that for, man, I don't know, a lot of years now. But this year, Harper did not want Lindsay to coach her. So Lindsay moved up to the 8th graders. The 8th coach, who is also I coach cross country with, is coaching Harper's team, and then they'll switch back next year. So Lindsay's in the gym. She's hovering around the bench because they co-coach, but Lindsay is not coaching Harper directly.
Okay.
Is the agreement.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
She asserted her boundaries.
Great. I coach Harper in basketball, and I am a firm believer that it's great for kids to be coached by people other than their parents. I think it's great, and she's got a really good coach.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Good. We've got a good topic to chat about today. We wanted to talk a bit about passive income. This is a popular topic that we get asked about a lot. Obviously, it's hot on people's minds. I think a lot of times when people think passive income, or if you just were to Google it or go on social media, you would find a lot of things that fall in the startup category. So it would be like earn passive income from creating digital products, earn passive income from starting an Etsy store, right? You'll see a lot of that. What we want to talk about today is passive income, generally a bit outside of that, like not just getting passive income from starting a business that can then later give you passive income, but things that are truly passive. Does that sound right, Tony?
Yeah. We talk about this a lot, right? Where people are like, how do you do all the things? I don't want to take on all this. I don't need an extra job. When a lot of people really like having their one job, they go and do it. They're getting paid well. They enjoy their job. They're getting their retirement, and they want their time outside of it. And sometimes I drive down the road and I see somebody operating a machine, and I know that they're working from probably 7 to 5 or something, and that's their window. And outside of it, they're not thinking about that road they're making or whatever. I'm like, gosh, that would be nice, but I'm insane. So that would probably be good for me for about a week, and then it wouldn't work anymore. But for those people that are in that world and they don't want to start up a side hustle or some other job, how do you create income that's truly passive? And yeah, so that's what I wanted to chat about. And it's definitely part of our definitely drips, maybe some trickles, and it's stuff that can grow over time without too much.
Let's start with, how about no fee stocks?
Yeah. So no fee stocks, Robinhood kind of, I guess, stole from the rich to give to the poor. I don't know. They blew the world up and created not only free stock trades, but also fractional investing and all of that. Robinhood, I think E-Trade, I don't know. I'm assuming most of them now are
Schwab. Yeah.
Yeah, there's tons now that are free. And you can go in and for $1, if you want, you could buy a piece of a stock. And if it's a dividend stock, it's going to start kicking off monthly, quarterly, annually, however they're set up, start kicking off dividends. And yes, there's risk involved, and you have to have money to make money, but you can get started for nothing, essentially nothing. If you've got $100 at the end of the month, boom, you can put that in there and you can start the process. And yeah, there's things that pay off a really high dividend that may be riskier or whatever, but there's a lot of blue chip stocks that pay a consistent dividend. I think Johnson & Johnson has raised their dividend every year for 100 years or something. So are you going to get rich putting $100 a month into Johnson & Johnson? Probably not. But is that going to start kicking off income every quarter? Yeah. And so to me, that's a very interesting way to get started in something that you can get started at I don't know the laws behind this, but basically any age. I don't know if minors are allowed to have these accounts and start doing that or not, but definitely by 18, you can just start putting whatever money you have in there. And if you have the dividend set to pay you, it'll pay you, or you can have it set
Mhm.
to reinvest. But you can definitely start creating income streams just that simply.
Yeah. I love that it's just makes investing accessible to everyone. Like you said, if you have $100, you have if you have $50, you can do something with it. And the blue chip dividend stocks are a good one. We're obviously not giving stock tips on this podcast, but we can just name, and you can find this anywhere online, like naming the top ones to consider. Tony said Johnson and Johnson. You'd be looking at ones like Coca-Cola, Verizon, McDonald's, right? These are all good ones, but you can find a list online and then your risk is relatively low and it's good. I also think it's good from a habit standpoint, like just starting an account, like opening an account, putting your $100 in it, and then just buying those blue chip dividend stocks. It's like you're doing something, right? You're creating a habit and then it's actually quite fun. So then you end up saying, "Oh, I have $100 over this month, left over this month. Okay, I'm going to do this again." And so it just creates that habit without meaning that you have to take a really sizable chunk of your income if you don't want to and invest it in the stock market.
Yeah, and we're naming off specific stocks, but I think Warren Buffett's advice is take your money, stick it in an index fund, and
Yeah.
forget about it. And a lot of those index funds do have some sort of dividend component as well. And we live in a very expensive world, and we've talked a lot about that on past episodes. And everybody, it's super expensive to get into buy a house, and interest rates are high. And all of those things are absolutely true. But it's also true that it's never been easier to invest than it is right now.
Mm.
And the barrier of entry is just so low and the dollars can be so low and the math still works. I remember when E-Trade came out with $7 trades and the
Mhm.
world was clamoring a $7 trade. And I go, awesome, I'm going to become a stock trader. And I go to buy my stock and I go, well, I've got 50 bucks. If I have to pay $7 for this trade, I have to make 14% of my money just to break even. And so even at
Yeah.
$7, it didn't make sense. Obviously, if you had 10 grand to put in there, the $7 wasn't going to impact your overall return. But if you had 100 bucks, the math still didn't really work. Where now you can get started for whatever amount. So just the accessibility to it. And not only can you start growing for a little amount of money, you can also start learning for a little amount of money. You can start seeing how that works and your risk level is low just because the dollar value might be low. And so just starting to, like you said, creating those habits of just starting to create these income streams. And it may feel like nothing, but if you put $100 a month in, I promise you that if, I guess, assuming that the stock's going up or whatever you're investing in is going up, but if all the charts continue the way they have for all of time, your 5-year-olds, the person yourself 5 years from now is going to be happy that you made that choice, even if it's just $100.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool to look back over the years. You're like, I'm really glad I put my money into that. And just looping back quickly to what you mentioned about index funds or dividend ETF, for anybody who doesn't know what that is, I think a lot of people will, but just in case, it's just instead of picking individual stocks, you're buying basically like these baskets that will pay dividends quarterly. And one reference or resource I wanted to provide is who I'm a big fan of. There is an investor, her name is Lynn Alden. She's very popular, has a book all about money, teaches you about money. It's great. And she offers a quarterly newsletter that's free. She also has a paid newsletter, but the free one is fine. And one of the things that she does in her newsletter, besides educating people on the current state of the economy, is she has a specific portfolio that she started only for this newsletter. And she threw $10,000 into it initially. And she shows you her whole portfolio every time she sends out the newsletter. So it's cool because While she's not saying, "Hey, here's what I do exactly as me," because obviously she bought things at all different times, so she tries to give you a price of what that is. However, I think it's good because you can see the different buckets that she's investing in, and she certainly has plenty of individual stocks, but she does have index funds as well, particularly gold and, like, precious metals ones, and so that's obviously something going on right now. Gold and silver prices spiking, although at the time of this recording, silver had gone down, but again, you can buy on the dip, and there's positives for things going down as well. Again, if this is something you're interested in, it really just in any type of investment into stocks, but index funds, or if you're thinking about getting into precious metals, that's another way you can get in is by purchasing a precious metal index fund. She has some options in there that just allow you to take a peek inside somebody's portfolio, which I think is quite cool. And at the very least, it will just give you a list that you can start doing your research off of that.
And that's Lynn Alden.
Yes, Lynalden.
Cool. I just wrote it down. Yeah, I'm not familiar with her. And I think Melissa will agree with this. Neither Melissa or I are stock experts. We are
No.
far from it. What I really like about it is I have been able to learn quite a bit with the inexpensive. I still have a financial advisor. That's where most of my money would go if it's going into the stock market, but it's fun to play with it and to learn, but you can also just get in for such an inexpensive amount to start. Another thing is if we talk about home ownership, there's now similar things where you can go on, you can buy fractional ownership of houses. There's one based out of Seattle called Arrive. There's another one, I think maybe it's called Fundrise.
Fundrise, yeah.
I'm not overly familiar with them, but you can go buy and you can buy a fraction of the house and they're going to start kicking off rents. And not only does that allow you to invest in the real estate market, it's a passive way to invest in the real estate market. You can do Arrived as little as $100 to buy a share, and you can diversify. They have properties all over the country, and I don't know about Fundrise exactly how they work, but they're actually starting to do some funds where they have a Seattle fund where you're buying in like a cluster of houses, yeah, in the Seattle area or greater Seattle area. But then they have properties all over the country. They have some short-term rentals on there as well. So it's a very interesting thing. Again, yes, buying a house is expensive. Interest rates are expensive. To become a real estate investor is an expensive, sometimes stressful process. And if you're going to self-manage, it's a lot of work. You're basically buying a job. And this is an avenue to invest in real estate with taking away all of those barriers. Now, are you paying something to have Arrived manage it or have Fundrise manage it? Absolutely. They're businesses, they're making money, but they're also creating opportunity, and you can trade that, whatever that fee is, you're basically trading it for your time.
I think it's a cool angle. I hadn't looked into it very much previously, but I saw an ad and I don't remember which one it was for. I think it was for Arrived, where it was like, no tenants, no toilets.
Yeah. I mean,
And I'm like, that's true, right? Because we've been in that position before too. And it's really difficult having investment properties across the country. And even with property management, there are things that go awry. So it's nice when, you have something like this. And I like the accessibility of it as well. Just like we talked about the stocks. If you're somebody that just has $100 left over, or a few $100 left over to invest, then this is a great way to do it. And you can get yourself into the real estate market. It's also probably a good way to learn or get your feet wet in the real estate market if you've never done it before. So lots of people, I think, want to get into that, but have no experience and maybe have purchased a home for themselves, or maybe not. Lots of people are going right into investing. And so this seems like a cool way to just be like, I'm going to dip my feet in with very low risk.
Yeah, and there is like buying a house. I think buying in these are less liquid. They do have the liquidity events, but it's not like you can just sell them whenever you want. Where if you have a stock, it's very liquid and you can, maybe you're taking a loss, but you can sell it whenever you want. So there is value to be able to buy into this house, but it also, you need to be aware that if you need that $1,000 back or whatever, it may not be available immediately. But I think it's really cool. It's a very creative way to buy into the real estate market. I have talked at lengths. Anthony, who was on one of our very early shows, he and I have
Mhm.
talked length about out of state investing, partially because investing in Washington is expensive and you can get better cash on cash returns outside of Washington. However, now you're hiring a property manager, you don't have the knowledge base of the area, where to buy, right? The first three rules of real estate or location. And so it's always been more of a daunting task than I was comfortable taking on. One of these things, you can just look at the map and be like, okay, yeah, it'd be awesome to own something in North Carolina. Now you're trusting that whoever's acquiring that house and whoever's managing that property is going to do a good job, but you're also risking less. And I think at some point those houses may get sold and then you will have a forced exit.
Yeah.
Then you can redeploy that money. And you can also with them, sometimes you can buy in before or yeah, that they're already leased. So sometimes they come on,
Mm.
you already know what it's going to be rented for. And that's not always the case. So you can have vacant months owning these properties, but you can also buy into lease properties where you say, I'm paying X, this is the rent. The math works pretty good. I'm going to get a 4% return on my money. Hopefully it appreciates at 5% and decide if you're happy with that or not.
Yeah.
So it's really, I don't know, it's cool, but very creative how everybody's coming up with these different things.
Really creative. Any others that you can think of?
Yeah. And so this one is these ones are really risky, but there's things like Start Engine, which that's like Mr. Wonderful, I think is behind.
Yeah, Shark Tank.
And then I just Googled it, but there's We Fund and Micro Ventures. And so you're investing in startups and that money I think is very risky. I think there's a solid chance that it goes to zero. But again, it does give you access where in the past only, venture capital firms or maybe the very wealthy, but if nothing else, you at least have to have access. And
Mhm.
this is giving access to these startups. And if there's something that you go, man, I had that idea. I can't believe they're doing it. Or you do just something you believe in. It could be a good opportunity to roll the dice, so to speak, because I do think it probably is more gambling than if you're going to invest in an index fund or a blue chip or even a house. That houses very rarely go to zero, where startups often go to zero, maybe more often than not.
Yeah.
But again, it's a creative way to get in. I don't know. That's creating where buying a dividend stock or index fund or buying a fractional share in a house is going to give you kickoff rental income. These, I don't know, they may at some point be kicking off income, but it's probably less of an income play, more of a growth. You're
Yeah.
looking for that
Part of your
flood.
portfolio.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're looking for the flood as opposed to creating a drip or a trickle kind of a
Mm.
thing. But it's really cool. And I think it's an opportunity for smart people to go do their research and decide where they want to stick their money. And again, the barrier of entry is just so low.
Yeah. I also like that you can like drip, trickle, flow, flood this as well because of the low barrier to entry for most of these things. You can invest in multiple areas, right? And then some things might take off. Like you, yeah, again, we've done very well with certain stocks. I know that. I know you've done very well. We've done well with real estate too. So you never really know, right? These things can pan out and turn into a flow or a flood, or maybe they say a drip or a trickle. But I like that you can start creating your income portfolio off of this with very low initial investment.
Yeah. And again, there's no bad number to have coming in, right? If it's just this little drip
Yeah.
and it keeps dripping and it's going to be filling up the bucket. And as your income goes up or your costs go down or you pay off debt, whatever your situation is, good. Then you can add more fuel to the fire. You can turn on the faucet to create more of that. But just to get that started, how that can impact your overall income. And I don't know. Well, the one nice thing about these is they don't call you. They not only do they not call you, is they won't take your phone call. So it's not going to take any of your time.
You won't get my toilet's broken.
Right. But they're not calling on Thanksgiving. They're not,
No.
it's, yeah.
Yeah, this is
And
great.
yeah. And I think we say this in most episodes. If there's someone out there that's doing this or tries it or whatever, let us know. We really are
Yeah.
curious. And if someone says, I started doing this and this is how I built it up, and that's an interesting guest to have come on. We have a lot of entrepreneurs come on, but having people that are figuring out how to make drip trickle flow flood work for them.
Mm.
Like we talk about, we want the conversation around money to be happening. We want that taboo to be gone. And people are having the same money concerns out there. So we want to hear from people and get the conversation going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. And we'll see you next time on Drip Trickle Flow Flood. Bye, everybody.